good evening and a warm welcome to Personal Finance. I'm Guguletu Gele. Today we're talking the often contentious issue of maintenance. Joining me now for this discussion is Nick Dekker, a qualified financial planner from Ultima. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Nick.
Good evening.
It's a big issue, the big M quite clearly, but let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. Maintenance, and I understand that obviously this does get split up between spousal and often associated with children as well.
Yes. I think let's just quickly make a distinction between maintenance and assets. Where with the divorce decree, there's maintenance is of an income nature, and the actual divorce where you split assets is a different issue. Tonight we talk about specifically the income maintenance. When a marriage comes to an end, the responsibility of one spouse to take care of another actually ends because it's the end of a marriage. But the maintenance of a child until age 18 is still it's still a right that a child has to be maintained by his parent, or both parents actually. The one may contribute financially and the other one physically in terms of taking care after the child.
Let's focus on the marriage one first, because
Yes.
I think that's obviously a big one, and we always hear about it in these high-profile kind of cases where people of ultra wealth often find themselves paying what the term I know in America is used as alimony for their ex-wives or ex-husbands. But in South Africa, do we have such a legal requirement following a divorce?
Yes, there are two issues here. The one is before divorce, and the one is after divorce. So after divorce, normally one spouse doesn't really need to take care of another. So that's where Matrimonial Property Act, with the matrimonial property regimes in or out of community property comes into play. So that's the division of assets. So if you are married out of community of property, unfortunately you don't really have rights, because mine is mine and yours are yours. In community of property, it's a shared estate which needs to be split up in terms of assets. In terms of income, especially with those high profile ones where it can take quite a long time to actually finalize the divorce, there may be an interim period where the one spouse is still obliged to take care of the other. And there the court have a specific rule, Rule 43 for the High Court, where a spouse can put in a claim to be maintained until the divorce is actually settled.
What kind of reasons would qualify for you to get maintenance?
There the court will distinguish between needs and wants. If you have a lavish lifestyle, the court may not see that as an actual need, but medical aid, residence to reside somewhere, even some of the legal fees may also be part of that solution, because if one spouse is not working, I'm talking about she, it may it may go both ways, and I think that's also important to take note of. But it's for the interim. The one spouse may file for the court just to get that relief, and it's a lot more affordable than going the legal route.
Let's talk wide amounts here, because obviously I take it you can never pay too much maintenance, but is there too little that gets paid to your spouse? Or again, as you alluded to, does this get double-checked by the courts as to what are the necessary costs that you're actually incurring? Yes,
the court will take into account the lifestyle that the household is used to, and also the means of both spouses. So if both are of equal need, it will be quite difficult to argue that you need to be maintained. But if one spouse is working and the other not, then yes, I cannot see that it will not work in your favor.
And this also goes back to the paperwork. Do we ever find in South Africa where we have couples who have some kind of legal agreement or contract in place where they agree on some form of maintenance to be paid?
Yes, always. Remember, a right is something that you can sue for, but going the legal route often costs lots of money, and where these wealthy spouses try to get the most out of a settlement agreement. I mean, they may have the financial resources to sustain such a legal route, whereas, let's call it the normal person on the street, may not have that, and it's always easier and cheaper to settle. And also, if you settle, you don't have that emotional baggage. So the one is a financial issue, and the other one is emotional.
Let's talk about the big one here, which has to be children, and that's often where the key contentiousness comes into play here. When it comes to children, you mentioned that it's a right. If you're a parent of a child, you need to provide some kind of maintenance till the age of 18.
Yes. So after the age of 18, the child himself, who is now a major, it's not a minor child anymore, he may then sue. For instance, if it's a child that goes on for further studies, then the child in his own right may apply for a maintenance order against either or both of the parents and then again it will be settled according to the means of the parents.
Walk us through that, because I think sometimes there's often a lack of correlation between the two parents, and they don't necessarily have a proper agreement and understanding, and we often see people being taken to court to pay some kind of maintenance for their children. From a financial planning structure, are there terms and elements that they can put in place in order to make sure that this is taken care of efficiently?
Well, obviously, if you as a parent take care from a young age for the child, and you have the provision in place, then it's so much easier to do. When it comes to maintenance, if there is a maintenance obligation, and as a parent you do not have the financial the income to support that maintenance, but you have assets, the court may even order you to sell off some of those assets in order to comply with your maintenance.
Even though
order.
I have no alternative source of income, Nick?
Yes, yeah. So the court will look at your whole situation and may order you to sell off some of your assets.
So let's say my name is Joe, I've got a car, unfortunately I have no job, I need to sell this car now in order to provide for my child. Aren't there other financial means that we can come about, maybe a minimum payment that you can make, or alternative types of maintenance?
Again, if it's not within your means, the court cannot order you to do something out of the ordinary. So as I said, they will take into account the whole situation. If, for instance, you have a parent who tried to hide his assets in a form of a trust or in some of a legal structure, the way that trust is managed will also come under scrutiny, and it's been that, like that for there's a few test cases that we are familiar with, where the trust assets were actually targeted by an ex-spouse or even children, where a father or mother tried to abstain from the responsibility to take care of that child.
In that kind of situation, what kind of recourse do you have?
The child?
Yes, the child, in order to benefit from those assets in the trust.
Well, you need to go to a court, so you need legal advice. And what happened there was a Jordan case. It's a very familiar one. There were two cases involving Jordan actually, where the trust assets were targeted for the divorce order, and then later on the trustee, well, the actual owner of the property, he was actually disqualified as a trustee from his own trust. So there are legal routes, but it may be costly. Again, when it comes to those type of client or person with the assets, normally the legal route will be the one which they can afford in essence.
Sure. So quite a complicated situation.
No, it can get quite complicated.
For those honest individuals out there, how important is it then to have some kind of documentation to show that you have been paying some kind of maintenance towards your child?
Extremely important. You who allege needs to prove. So what I always tell my clients when they come in and they're planning on a divorce and they don't know what their social status, what the outcome will be, I always tell them, start with a budget. Bring me your budget so that we can have a definite proof of your needs. For instance, you've got a medical aid, you know what you pay for rent, you know what the school fees are, everything. Put it into a decent budget, and then you've got the proof. Then the other party needs to counter-proof that if they want to abstain, if they do not want to honor the agreement.
Sure. Time for us to recap now on the key takeaway points from this discussion. Nick, we've said quite a bit, but if we could sum it up into 5 bullet points, maintenance for both spouses and children, the key considerations to take into account.
I would say talk to a financial planner who can help you with a structure, with budgeting requirements and with the needs. For even if it comes to long-term capital needs, let a financial planner help you to do the calculations on how much you need in order to put in a decent claim.
Something else that I wanted us to explore is obviously how you pay this maintenance. Some people might find that, building up your assets or paying for some other facilities for your child could be easier, or is cash the easiest way to go? Or again, it depends on your
I would always
preference.
go for something where you have proof. For instance, you can have a manual payment or a debit order type structure that you can put onto your bank account, which makes automatic payments, and then also you have automatic proof that the payment was done.
Exactly. Nick, such a pleasure having you in with us this evening. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of feedback from our viewers, but that's where we have to end it off for Personal Finance tonight. A big thank you once again to Nick Dekker, Certified Financial Planner from Ultima. Remember that we want to hear from you, so send us your tweets and suggestions to @CNBC Africa using the hashtag Finance410 or to myself @Kukumfupi on Twitter. Until next time, it's goodbye for now.